But
That's
tonight
why.
it's got to be for me. It's got to be Kyle Hendricks.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, he literally has the word ick in his last name.
yeah, there you go.
1-2. Swinging a drive toward right center. Back goes Robert. Back near the stands. That ball is gone. A game-winning home run for Chris Morel. Can you believe it? Listen to this crowd.
Welcome back to the Brotherly Cubs podcast. I'm John, and that's my brother Zach. We are your brothers who love everything Cubs baseball. If you enjoy the Cubs, then hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and join us every week as we dive into the power, the speed, and the best team in the National League. We'd like to start off each podcast with a playful question for all 64 of our subscribers. Feel free to put your answer in the comments. Today, Zach, I ask you, which Cub player gives you the ick so far this season? Good question.
Very Gen Z of me to type up that on the script.
Yeah.
Uh, so I'm thinking Jose Cuas
Yeah.
overall, but there's a few. I mean, maybe Christopher Morel's glove is the ick, but overall, it's got to be Jose Cuas in first place.
Yeah, I agree. I was gonna say Jose Cuas, I think going in, if I didn't see Kyle Hendricks pitch.
Yeah,
But
that's
tonight
what.
it's gotta be for me, it's gotta be Kyle Hendricks.
I mean,
Um
yeah, he literally has the word ick in his last name.
yeah, there you go. Didn't even think about that. Just I was looking at his stats. I couldn't remember if he had faced the Dodgers, but yeah, so he faced the Dodgers and he actually did better than he did tonight. So
Mhm.
he gave up, I think it was 5 earned runs. I had his game logs here, but 5 earned runs. He had five, no, 8 hits, 8 hits. And he gave up a home run and then 2 walks. Yeah, 4 strikeouts. So tonight was 7 earned runs. Um, he's typically, it seems like, he would slot in higher than a fifth pitcher, like a fifth in the rotation. But I feel like he's like our fifth starter right now. It's just, we need him to maybe, I was thinking maybe having him go 10-7 or something, with a few, or maybe even 11-7, a few no decisions sprinkled in there.
Yeah.
But he's just been terrible. I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna get better, maybe a little bit better, but
I mean, we're lucky if he goes 7-11 this year.
yeah, I mean, 10, anything north of 9 wins would be, wishful thinking, but
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, like you said, Christopher Morel's glove is maybe could be the ick as well, gives me the ick. But he's made up for it though, right? I mean,
That's
he's
exactly, yeah.
yeah, so I mean, you got to kind of balance it out. I mean, he had the grand slam the other night, which was incredible. I was watching it with Veronica. Shout out to my girlfriend Veronica. Hey, baby. So yeah, it's Christopher Morel has been tremendous offensively. Defensively, that's a whole other thing. But anyways, moving on to the latest news. We have Jameson Tyone just recently made a rehab start in Double A Tennessee, and he will rehab with Iowa on April 12th before returning. And Patrick Wisdom has rehabbed with Iowa and is close to a return. Um, he's it looked great the other night. I think he had a few hits, big hits,
Extra base hits of
extra
that
base hits.
variety.
Yeah. Julian Merriweather, unfortunately, was diagnosed with a rib cage stress fracture and will be out 2 months. Um, I thought originally it was supposed to be like a month, but I guess it's now 2 months.
He needs time to rehab. And
Mhm.
so even with him resting for a whole month, he can't like he won't be throwing at all for a whole month. So
Yeah.
he's back to square one, and then it takes about 3 to 4 weeks to ramp up. I think the latest news was that they estimated he'd be back in 8 weeks. I think maybe a week of that is a rehab, and 2 to 3 weeks is like throwing. So and bullpens and getting he doesn't need to get up to starter innings, so that helps him. So maybe he can come back faster than the eight
Mhm.
weeks. But it depends on it's a similar injury to Stroman, what Stroman had last year, from what I recall. He had a similar rib cage fracture type issue. It takes 2 to 3 weeks for it to completely heal, maybe 4 weeks. And then from there, you got to start throwing. So 8 weeks is like pretty conservative from what I
Yeah.
last heard. I don't know if that was Marquee or who released that news, but I would bet they'll put him on the 60-day injured list. I just don't know when that's going to happen.
Yeah. Some other news and notes here. The Cubs are heading to. Did that go final? I probably went final today from today's Padres game.
Yeah, 2 to 10.
2-10. I was like, oh, that's 2 outs. I mean, crazier things have happened. Maybe not. But yeah, so we're now 7-5 on the season. Obviously, the major highlight this past week has been the Cubs taking 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers. For me, that was incredible.
Oh yeah.
The Cubs went 2-1. So again, 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. They won the first game 9-7 against Bobby Miller on Friday. They lost Saturday versus Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Can't say that. 1-4 on game 2, and then they won the series finale 8-1 against Gavin Stone on Sunday. So yeah, I was really pumped about that. For me, it really set the tone to start off this road trip and or to head into the road trip. And so I was excited for the Padres. They're not as, daunting as the Dodgers, I would say. So speaking of that series to the Padres, we lost the first game 8-9 versus Darvish. We won 5-1 against or 8, yeah, so 8-9. We blew, of course, that 8-0 lead, which was terrible. Then we won 5-1 against Joe Musgrove, and then again we just lost with Kyle Cease. Dylan Cease, there we go.
Dylan Hendricks.
Dylan Hendricks, yeah. So yeah, with that loss, that now brings us to 7-5. So, what are your thoughts, Zach, on the Cubs season so far?
Recapping this last week, it feels like the Dodgers series was really good, and they should have. The most recent thing on our minds is the 8-0 lead the Cubs blew, destroying Yu Darvish, and I forgot who pitched in relief. He also gave up, I think, 4 runs, so he had an 8-0 lead. And if you win, just hang on and win that game. By the way, the Cubs had not blown a lead of that kind in 22 years.
Yeah.
So it was like almost a once in a blue moon, once in 5 presidential election cycles or 5 leap year type situations since the Cubs had, Wood and Pryor in the rotation. That was the last time they blew a lead of that size.
Right.
So if you win that game, obviously, like you normally would in every other 20 years, you're looking like you don't even care about this game, right? You're probably not going to sweep the Padres. You're not going to sweep the Dodgers, or the Rangers. These are really tough teams. That's definitely goes without being said, but it's there. And you maybe don't even worry too much about losing to Dylan Cease because if you look at, so for those who don't know, who's listening, we have like notes and John read off the pitchers the Cubs are facing. And if you look at the Dodgers rotation, they of course did not have Glass now in that series, and they don't have a healthy Walker Buehler. They don't have a healthy Clayton Kershaw or Shohei Ohtani. So the Dodgers rotation is going to be really good when they're healthy. But the Padres rotation is healthy, right? I mean, they just traded for Dylan Cease a month ago, right? Right before like the South Korea Seoul series. And those are 3 really good pitchers. And just winning, staying in there, beating, I mean, Musgrove gave up 1 run before he was pulled. Obviously, all those runners score, but Morel hits the grand slam against the reliever. I think his last name was Kolek, but most of the runs get charged to Musgrove. So 4 runs against Darvish, 4 against Musgrove. The biggest takeaway so far is the offense looks really good, right?
Right.
It's a good offense. You can't sit here and say, oh, well, they're boom or bust this year. It's obviously too early to tell, right? But so far it's been 9 runs, 11 runs, 10, 8. I mean, I would say the Bobby Miller game against the Dodgers, that
Mhm.
is impressive, right? They
Yeah.
destroyed him. Gavin Stone is a good pitcher, and they still hit him hard. I know the rain and the weather have made an impact in some of these games, right?
Mhm.
Especially at Wrigley in
Right.
early April. I don't know why they play there, but they do. So, and they lost Yamamoto, but they're beating decent pitchers and they're scoring a lot of runs.
Mhm.
The Rangers, they didn't put up, and the Rockies, they didn't put up as good of starting pitchers, and so that's less of a test in terms of those guys you faced. But they faced some difficult tasks. They're going to face the Mariners here really soon,
Right.
and that's a very difficult rotation. I mean, if you look at this Padres rotation, uh, I would say Padres and Mariners are maybe top 10 right now in the game, right?
Yeah.
Uh, you know who knows with the Padres, but you lose the series, it sucks. The 8-0 lead that's the one we'll probably talk about. That one still stings because of the series loss, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you got what, Logan Gilbert coming up? I'm not sure what the probables are, but let's see. Oh no, he pitched today.
Well, that's a
So
relief.
yeah, Bryce Miller. So it's going to be Jordan Wicks versus Bryce Miller.
Miller's good.
Mm-hmm. And then the 13th. So Saturday is going to be Shota. I mean, Imanaga versus Emerson Hancock. So he has
Oh,
11.42 ERA. So maybe we'll be able to pick up one game there.
well, it's early. I mean, it's just
It's
a
early. Yeah.
a less of a named pitcher that helps us for sure
Right.
on Saturday's game, and then of course Luis,
TBD.
yeah,
Yeah.
Luis Castillo in that final game, he's nasty. So
Yeah.
it's no Kirby, that helps us. No George
Right.
Kirby, Bryce Miller, Luis Castillo. The good news is there's no Kyle Kendricks. Kylie Jenner is
Yeah.
not Kylie Gendricks. It's Wicks, Imanaga, and then uh, possibly Assad, right? And
Mhm.
so or Ben Brown. I guess it just depends on how it shakes out. Maybe you go Assad. I don't know. Ben Brown has looked really good too, right? Even Assad in the game that he pitched, he gave up 2 runs in the 5 innings, in which we were up 8-2 by the time he left. 8-0. He left the game with an 8-2 lead. You think he'd be safe? If you look around, if you just sit there and take out the Kyle Hendricks games and you say, did anyone give me a bad start? Um, Jordan Wicks gave up 5 runs, but only 2 earned against the Rangers. And then, as far as I can recall, that's pretty much it, right? So they're gonna have to make a decision here about Jose Cuas, the Icks,
Right.
right? The couple Icks in terms of pitching. Jose
Yeah.
Cuas is gonna have to get sent. There's an off day here. Send him to Iowa. It's okay. I even at the start of the season before he had pitched a very good spring training, I thought Jose Cuas was going to. I thought he might start in Iowa. I didn't know how the bullpen's going to shake out.
Hmm.
My next thoughts for the bullpen are to 60-day IL Julian Merriweather
Right.
in the coming days. See what you have with CJ Edwards. If he had 3 walks in his last outing, that's not good. But if he can look like he's been in the last few years, couple years, whatever it is, I would think about activating him and putting Merriweather on the 60-day. Another option, even maybe before that happens, maybe they can bring up Keegan Thompson
Hmm.
and send down Jose Cuas at a minimum. But the better move, maybe it's taking CJ up right now, once he turns around a couple of good outings, and sending Cuas down, and then the 60-day injury list frees up the move for him. But or Keegan first and then send out Palencia and bring up CJ. Something of that variety. I'm not saying Palencia needs to be sent down ASAP, but Cuas, in my opinion, needs to. He gave up more runs today, even. So I don't think he's pitched a clean no-run inning in since maybe opening day or opening week. I mean, it's been 8, 9 games since he's pitched well.
Hmm.
So uh yeah, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on Kyle Hendricks? Because I don't really know what to
I
do with the
do.
guy.
I mean, like you said, Ben Brown is just absolutely dealing. I mean, his first game was okay, versus Texas. I mean, he kind of just got his feet wet. I think his first he pitched what, 2 innings?
He
I
gave
think the
up
first
six
inning
six
s-
runs though.
six, yeah, that's pretty good. No, I'm just joking. No, but I thought the first inning wasn't bad though. Didn't he come in
The
and
first inning was good, and
yeah,
I mean he is dealing. He has
yeah.
almost, if you scratch that first outing, which you don't
Mhm.
normally do, but even if you did,
We'll
and
just
he's
do it this
pitched,
time.
yeah, just
We'll do it this
this
time for Ben Brown.
yes, only he's pitched almost 9 innings so far and only
Right.
given up one earned run. So
My thoughts are I was trying to find any information I could on Justin Steele. I still don't have any
he threw
updates.
off flat ground a couple
Okay.
days ago.
Okay, well there you go. Thank you for that update.
Yeah.
I've been on Google trying to nothing's on Google right now, or at
It's
least
on the
on the
Cubs
Google.
injured list
Okay.
page, their injuries and updates page.
You would think I would go there first. Uh,
Good
so
resource.
good resource, Cubs.com. So he is throwing off flat ground, you said.
Yes, like 70
Okay.
pitches, but that we want to see him like on a mound, right?
Right, right.
Built up. So
So when he comes back and you've got Jamison Tyone, I would assume
pretty soon
he's
for him, like within the
he's pretty
week.
soon. Okay, so they just got to weather the storm, until then. Um, the reason why I say that, I mean, when those two come back, you're talking about Javier Assad maybe going to the bullpen.
Yeah.
But he's been great, man. I mean, I would even say,
Uh-huh.
this is just kind of spitballing, but um, Kyle Hendricks going to the bullpen. I mean, would that
Uh,
be an option? I don't
it,
know.
well, if you're in so if you're
So let's just go through the rotation, right? Let's say everybody's healthy. You got Justin Steele, you got Shota Imanaga, you've got Jameson Tyone,
Mhm.
and then maybe Javier Assad. I would put Javier Assad in the rotation.
Wicks too, Wicks is the lock
And
right
Jordan
now.
Wicks. God, I forgot about Jordan Wicks.
He's really good. Yeah, I think he's better than
Yeah,
Assad, honestly.
yeah, I would. He might even be. Yeah, he'd be like at least a three, slot in as like a three, number
Hmm.
three in the rotation. So, yeah, you got Steele, Imanaga, Wicks, Tyone, and Assad. And I would think that pushes Hendricks. One more poor start from Hendricks. I think that's it, man. Like, I just can't take this, 5 runs, 7 runs. Like, there's got to be better options out there.
Yeah, I agree. Ben Brown should sit within that.
Yeah, even
He
Ben
should,
Brown. Like, Ben Brown could be, um, maybe Assad or Ben Brown.
one of them, yeah, they have to make a decision which of them will and I thought about this today actually because I had been feeling very ick about Kyle Hendricks. So just preemptively I was like, oh, I was nervous, right?
Right.
So they could still they'll keep both those guys up, I bet.
Hmm.
And either Assad will make a start, Brown will make a start. They might go to like a 6-man rotation to give additional rest.
Right.
And when they do the 6-man rotation, it also means the guy that pitches less innings, or since it is a 6-man rotation, they will be fresh. So I expect that unless the guys goes 7 innings or more, when those two guys are in there in that rotation, one of the other can eventually flip flop and go into the bullpen, especially on an extra inning game of some kind, an inning time in which innings need to be eaten with, or maybe alongside Smiley, something like that. I could see that. And then when Steele comes back and you have to move another pitcher to the bullpen, so then you're saying, okay, what do you do about Kyle Hendricks? And he could go to the bullpen, but uh, I I'm guessing what they may do is like phantom injury list him. That's what you do when guys can't get sent down. They're out of
To
options.
Kyle Hendricks.
Kyle Hendricks, phantom injury list. There's been several jokes even this tonight on Twitter about
Hmm.
someone said the 60-day injured list, but uh, that would free up another spot.
How long can we keep him on the injured list?
Yeah, you could. So
Um,
I'm pretty sure a guy can be on the 15-day for like 30 days or more, especially if something just isn't healing and it's taking a while.
right.
So if they can do that and sort of put him on a development list and figure some stuff out, like okay, what's going on? They're probably have already looked at it. So now they're like, okay, is he tipping the pitch? Is there
Yeah.
something with the arm slot? Is he not getting when he doesn't get ahead? It's like he gets into a corner to a certain instance and he can't locate, and he's getting hit really hard. The first time he gave up runs, I was a little annoyed, but there were 3 batted balls that were like under 75 miles an hour. So that's just luck, right? And then from
Right.
there, they tied the game 2-2, and I thought, okay, well, we're back in the game. Hendricks just needs, and sometimes he goes through the order and he gets like a 1-2-3 inning with 10 pitches, and it's like, oh, he's back. And then the next inning, like multiple home runs, and he's
Yeah.
getting hit, I think 5 home runs so far, 17 earned runs, and it's one of the worst starts in Cub history for the first 3 starts of a pitcher's season. So if they don't figure it out this next outing, which I don't expect they will,
Right.
the bullpen, yes, it's an option, but I would use the phantom injury list to your advantage. I don't know how close the league is checking it, and I would see if you can get him down in Iowa and see if you can figure out what's going on and have him down there for like 2 to 3 weeks, right?
Just put him down for
Uh,
a lat strain or something.
yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, there's soreness that guys can be experiencing and they just go on the injured list, and it's happened
Yeah.
a lot. And I don't know how much of it needs to be proven by imaging, but if they don't have to show anything for it to the league, it's like you need to take advantage of this. This is what they're going to do with the
Yeah.
bullpen probably all year if guys struggle.
Load management.
Yes. Load management for pitchers
Already.
that suck. And Kyle Hendricks, for the audience, I'm sure a lot of our audience is aware of Kyle Hendricks. He's had a very decorated, very celebrated Cubs career.
Yeah.
He was really bad in 2022 and 2021. Obviously, in 2022, the shoulder injury, like a torn capsule, I think it was, came back late for 2023 and pitched very well, a 3.7 ERA. So we kind of thought, okay, Hendricks is back, and if he gives us like a 4 point something ERA, that's doable. But yeah. If you take him out of the rotation, do you remember when Stroman was struggling last year and he was injured, but he was also struggling, right? The Cubs actually went on a run because Javier Assad came in and dealt, and Wicks was up, and there was like the young guns were going. You had Steele, Taillon was improving. Hendricks again had a good ERA last year. So when your rotation is on sync, and especially if Taillon can come back and he pitches well or decently well, eat some innings, doesn't give up like 3 or 4 runs. And again, Steele will come back at some point too. And the rotation is going to look really good. Ben Brown looks very good. Good curveball, good fastball. He was hitting 97, 98.
That's the other thing about him is that, as a starter, 2 pitches, you kind of wonder how long can they go before people kind of figure you out, and
Yeah.
he just seemed to be dealing, man. I mean, he's still obviously young and people are trying to still figure him out. So
They'll
you kind of wonder, would a bullpen role be more suited for him, versus like starting. So
I think a little bit of both. I mean, see if you can get him to work on that changeup he'd worked on against lefties. And then I'm still thinking, like, why doesn't he have a fastball that moves, like a 2-seam or a cutter or something that is not just a straight fastball?
Yeah.
So
just keep developing, right? I mean,
keep developing. Again, go with that changeup against lefties. That'll help him even in the bullpen. But I agree. I think his ceiling is a starter, obviously, but he's going to really shine now that Merriweather's out for like 2 months. Brown could probably step in and be able to eat multiple innings when he needs to, and he looks good as a strikeout pitcher, right? So you replace one guy's throwing 98 to 100, you bring in another guy who throws at least 96, 97 with a good curveball, and that could replace him pretty well in the bullpen. So I think that's a good idea. I think they'll explore that, especially as this bullpen starts to get sorted out. They need to figure out the usage, the high leverage versus low leverage. Luke Little may up his high leverage appearances. Jose Cuas is going to have to work on his stuff. Yency Almonte is kind of right in the middle. Neris and Alzolay both need to sort of refine their stuff early on here, and then Leiter looks good. So we're really missing Merriweather right now, him being out. But that bullpen, let's talk about that 8-run blown lead, even though it's heartbreaking.
yeah,
They
it's back.
almost blew the lead. Well, they did blow the lead against the Rockies, 8-2. They
Yeah.
made it 8-8, and the Cubs got an extra run in the ninth inning, 9-8, and won the game.
Yeah.
But that's two now in like the
They
span of
could
2
very well
weeks.
be 6-6.
Yeah, and
So I mean,
those
yeah,
are heartbreaking losses. So
right.
they need to get past those, and Counsell, like Ross, is going to have to learn how his bullpen is shaped out. The frustrating thing to me is this is not some kind of brand new bullpen where guys
Right.
are being experimented into new roles.
Mm-hmm.
Neris is experienced, Alzolay is experienced, Merriweather and Leiter were there last year.
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of data on these guys, especially with how they looked. The only other thing I can say is there's been bad weather,
Yeah.
and these teams are really damn good. I mean, these are
Yeah.
good offenses we're facing. So the only, I guess, silver
Yeah.
lining with the struggling right now is if they can turn around a little bit, they're going to face like the Marlins, and the Mariners don't even have a good offense. So some of these teams will face coming up pretty soon. It's not going to be constantly like the Dodgers and Rangers, right? Those are
Right.
two of the best offenses in the major leagues.
To the Padres' credit, I mean, that opening series, that Soul series, they really, handed it to them. They were scoring a bunch of runs. I don't know if you remember, but
Yeah, that was
yeah,
nuts.
they scored, I think, was it 12 or 13 runs? I think it was in game one or game two. It's just like, gosh,
Yeah,
who
that
are these
game.
guys? They traded Soto, right? I mean,
Yeah, you're
so I
right.
mean,
They're
it's
young.
incredible. They're scrappy. Yeah, Cronenworth is awesome. Yeah, so I mean, credit to San Diego. They have an interesting ball club. I'm really curious to see how they're going to finish the season. Because right now it's like they kind of just they have a good ball club. So
And they invested in bullpen help too. They went out and
yeah,
got bullpen arms. That's something the Cubs have
Matsui.
been. Yes, and Woo Suk Go.
Yeah,
Uh, I thought they had. I know they already had some good bullpen options. I think Suarez, their closer, so they
yeah,
had
he's
like a
good.
decent bullpen, and they
Mhm.
made it better, right, with free agent relievers.
Yeah,
So that's something the Cubs have been very just afraid to do.
yeah,
And it's something they'll have to do around the trade deadline if they want to make this team better. They've got to get healthy, and they've definitely have to make a trade for another high leverage reliever. And
yeah.
if they end up getting a closer, Alzolay slots in really well as an eighth inning guy. He's a good pitcher,
He is a
and
good pitcher. I don't know, if you're in the playoffs, just to kind of give you my closing thoughts personally, but I just think you're seeing that now. You're seeing the bullpen depth or lack thereof showing. I mean, a lot of people were wondering, hey, what the hell are we doing? They let Stevenson go to, what was it, the Angels? So I mean, obviously Hader is kind of not really gettable. But I mean, you have Alzolay kind of more so slots in as like an eighth inning, or maybe a backup closer, and then Neris obviously is not the same. So your closer options are kind of thin. I mean, if you want someone to dominate and you're heading into the postseason, you consider yourself a playoff contender. I think they need that shutdown closer, that's throwing gas. Was that Suarez that was throwing just absolute gas for the
yeah, and
Padres? Because I was just like, man, was it 98 or 100 or
I think
something like that?
so. And even
It was,
even if it is gas, great. But if again
you got to be able to
Merriweather will
locate.
Merriweather can throw that fast. They need to get him healthy, and the bullpen will look better.
Mhm.
And it's location, yes, but also stuff too. Just getting whiffs.
Right.
If you can throw 94, 95, but your stuff is absolutely filthy, you can get lefties and righties out. I don't
Hmm.
really care. Just give me strikeouts. Closers need to have strikeouts.
Right.
That needs to be essentially one of your best pitchers on the ball club that just can't pitch. If they could pitch length, they would be a number two starter. That's how good their stuff should be. It's okay. I mean, Ben Brown could even be a closer to a certain extent. You don't need
Hmm.
four pitches, right? I'm not saying they should do that. Luke Little is going to pitch in high leverage. I think they'll figure this out. Counsell's a good manager,
Right.
and if they need to get a piece at the deadline, maybe he'll convince them. If we're close, hey, go into luxury tax,
Trade
grab,
trade one
yeah,
of our many, many outfielders that we have.
or just yeah, the depth pieces are galore in Iowa right now. That's a really good
Yeah.
offense.
Yeah.
They need to start, consolidating that depth um, into pitching. The pitching needs to be a little bit better, and it's going to be Counsell is a good manager. He's going to get this bullpen figured out. Rossi had trouble at times at the beginning of the season with the bullpen, and
Hmm.
it's tough for all the teams, right? There's lots
Yeah,
of
it's
variables that go into it.
yeah, there's David Bednar of the Pirates has been struggling lately. Josh
Right.
Hader even I think has blown a couple saves or so, or one or two. So I mean, it's early. I mean, it happens. People figure it out. Alzolay I think is kind of figuring it out a little bit. He's had that slider in the dirt a little bit I think last night.
Hmm.
So he's kind of I think trying to figure out what pitches are working for him at in any given night. So yeah, it was Suarez. Suarez was the closer that 9-8 game on the first Padre game.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I'm confident. Like, look, we're 7-5. We've had some massive letdowns. We still have a winning record.
Hmm.
Um, we almost took all these series, like without a couple blown saves, we would have won almost every series so far.
Right. Exactly.
So it's been tough with those games, but the offense looks good. The starting pitching looks good. Um, there's a lot to still be hopeful for, and there's a lot of
Mhm.
moves we can still make internally. So that's going to propel us forward, especially the schedule starts to lighten up and we get healthier. Taillon's coming back. Wisdom is probably going to replace Master Buoni or Cooper, whichever one. And he's
Right.
going to bring some good power off the bench. He could even play third when you want Morel to DH. I just thought about that today. I'm like, that'll be a pretty good offense.
Yeah.
Not putting Madrigal in there. Maybe Madrigal's a late inning substitution in the seventh or eighth. You have
Yeah.
Wisdom at third and Morel at DH at times. Bush has been looking. The offense is clicking right now.
Yeah. That's
So
one thing to be thankful for.
yes, it is Thanksgiving and we're thankful.
Yeah.
Uh,
Early Thanksgiving.
Yes. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us on the Brotherly Cubs podcast. If you have thoughts on today's podcast, comment them below. Or if you have another interesting topic, please let us know. We're dying for cool jokes to say on here. Hit the
Yeah.
subscribe button, turn on the notifications, or join the conversation with us on Twitter at Brotherly Cub or Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I'm Zach, and this is my brother John, and we will see you next week as we will eventually recap the Mariners and Diamondbacks series. Adios.
Peace.
Listen to this crowd.